I welcome you all for this video lecture on business statistics. So today in this session, let me give an introduction to statistics. So here, what is the content we are going to see here are what is statistics, what is data, types of data and its classification, then the diagrammatic and graphic representation of data. So let us see one by one. First, what is meant by statistics? So statistics is a mathematical science pertaining to the collection, analysis, interpretation and presentation of data. So that is, in olden days, the statistics is meant only for collecting the information regarding census, that is population, right? That is how many male or female, age, then births, deaths, likewise. Those things were recorded by the kings. So nowadays, statistics has been used most probably in all the emerging fields. So here, based on the definition, first of all, we should know what is meant by data. Okay, right. So what is data? So data are the units of information. They are often numeric and are collected through observation. So before analyzing something, we should collect some information, data, right? So nowadays the data is almost in means of images as well. So here we are going to see only in terms of numeric numbers. What are the types of data are? There are two types of data, primary data and secondary data. So first one, primary data. It is the data that is collected directly from the main sources, while secondary data is that has been already collected through the primary sources and made readily available for researchers to use for their own research. For example, if I need any information regarding the number of hostlers and day scholars in a particular class, for example in second BCom. So now there are two ways of collecting that information. Either I can go to the class directly and then I can collect directly from the students. That is one way of collection. The another way of collecting this information is I can go directly to the office, and if I say the class name, they will have the data already. How many day scholars or how many hostlers are there. So the first one prior, that is called a primary data. That is I am collecting directly from the students. The second one is I am collecting from the office. That is called a secondary data. So now, what are the ways of collecting this primary data and secondary data? So first one is how to collect the primary data. So there are 5 ways of collecting the primary data. The first one is direct personal observation. So what is direct personal observation? We are directly going to the person and collecting the information from them in person. So the data will be more accurate in this case. Next one, indirect oral interview. So what is indirect oral interview is, we are not going to collect the information from the informant, either we are collecting the data from the third person. For example, that is, it has been done almost by police department in case of theft or murder or something. So you will be collecting the information only from the witness but not from the person directly. So that is called indirect oral interview. Then third one is information through agencies. So here we will be giving our work to an agent. He will be collecting the information from the informants and he will send the details to us. That is information through agencies. The next one is mailed questionnaires. So here we are preparing a list of questions, that is questionnaire with the blank spaces for them to answer. So it will be sent to the mail and a particular person will answer the questions and it will be sent back. So that is called mailed questionnaire. So this is also one way of collecting the primary data. And the last method is the schedule sent through enumerator. Here the enumerators are, we will be training some people how to collect the data, how to create the question paper likewise, and you will be giving training, and these persons will be sent to different places and they'll collect the information and they will give to us. That is, for example, this method is often used by journalists, that is journals, newspapers. So there the press reporters, they will be doing this. So these are the different ways of collecting primary data. Next one, what are the sources of secondary data? So the sources of secondary data are published sources and unpublished sources. So published sources in the sense I have given here, international publications, official publications of central and state governments, semi-official publications, then publications of research institutions, then commercial and financial institutions, then various committees, commissions appointed by the government, then from journals and newspapers. These are all published sources. From that we can collect the information we need. And unpublished sources are nothing but the information collected by government or private officers, then by the researchers. they will be collecting information, but they are not published, right? So those data are called unpublished sources. Okay, next one. After collecting the data, we have to classify the data. So right, then only it will be that is, it will be convenient for us to either put it in tabulation form or diagrammatic form. Okay, so first after collecting the information, you have to classify. Right. So now what is meant by classification? It is the process of arranging the available facts into homogeneous groups or clauses according to resemblances and similarities. So it will be classifying under different heads. That is, if the first one comes under the first column, then you will be grouping. Likewise, the homogeneous groups are formed. So what are the different types of classification? Before that, I'll be seeing what is the objects of classification. Here, some of the points are given. They are, the objects of classification are to condense the mass of data, to present the facts in a simple form, to bring out clearly the points of similarity and dissimilarity, to facilitate comparison, to bring out the relationship between the data, and for preparing table, to facilitate statistical treatment of the data, then to facilitate easy interpretation, then to eliminate unnecessary details. So these are the objects of classification. And while classifying, what are the rules we should remember? The classification should be exact. They should be mutually exclusive, that is independent. Then stable. They should be flexible. Then suitable data has to be classified under different heads. Then homogeneity must be there. Then mathematical accuracy you have to check. Okay, while classifying, these are the rules we should remember. So next one, types of classification. So there are four major types of classification. First one is geographical, next one chronological, third one qualitative, and the last one is quantitative. As the name itself indicates, what is a geographical classification? So geographical in the sense area wise or region wise or district wise we are collecting the information, we are classifying, that is called geographical classification. Then chronological or historical, it is based on the time. That is, for example, for years, from 1981 to 1990, what are the profits of the particular company, or what is the population census, and how many of, that is likewise some information based on time. It may be the year or month or day, whatever it may be. So historical, based on time, it comes under chronological classification. Then qualitative. Qualitative is nothing but it is based on character or attributes of the people. Okay, so next one. Under qualitative, there are two different kinds of classification, simple and manifold classification. Simple classification in the sense we have only two classes. For example, if I am classifying the total population in terms of male and female, so that is based on gender. Only two classes are there. That is called a simple classification. Second one, manifold classification is that is after classifying the gender, that is male and female. Under that I can classify further, literate, illiterate, married, unmarried. Likewise, I can go on classifying further. So that is called a manifold classification. And the last one is quantitative. So it is based on numbers, numerical values or magnitudes, height of the people. Likewise, some numerical value is considered, that is called quantitative classification. Next one, diagrammatic representation of data. So while representing the data, we have two ways of representing. First one is diagrammatic representation. Second one is graphical representation. We all know what is a diagram, right? So here, diagrammatic representation is nothing but visual form of presentation of the statistical data. Now, while drawing a diagram, what are the rules we should remember? So you should note down the heading. The size is important. Length and breadth should be proper. Drawing should be proper. You should use a proper scale. You should select a proper appropriate diagram, and the right method you have to apply. An index should be given properly. Sources has to be mentioned, and the diagram should be simple. It should be understandable by all the people, even illiterate. So likewise, you should draw a diagram. Now, what are the types of diagram? Here we have 5 different types of diagram. One-dimensional diagram, two-dimensional diagram, three-dimensional, pictogram and cartogram. Now let us see one by one. First, what is a one-dimensional diagram? So one-dimensional in the sense we have only one axis, right? So here we have different types of one-dimensional diagram. The first one is line diagram. So I have given you. So only line is drawn to represent one variable. It may be vertical or horizontal. So here the construction of this diagram is very simple. It makes comparison easy. there is no width, and hence of very poor visual effect, so that it is less attractive, so it is not more attractive. The next one is bar diagram. Under bar diagram, we have different types of bar diagram: simple bar diagram, multiple bar diagram, subdivided bar diagram, percentage bar diagram. So here in this video, just I am here giving a hint of what are these diagrams. So first one, simple bar diagram. Here we have a number of separated bars, and each bar representing a value of the variable. So here I have given example, the country and birth rate are given. So I am considering the birth rate in y-axis. So first one, India. So I am marking till 33. So likewise, simple bars are drawn. That is a simple bar diagram. Then multiple bar diagram, if you are going to compare more than two variables, sorry, more than one variable, we will be using this multiple bar diagram. See here we are comparing the profits of two companies A and B. So I am using two different bars in the same graph. So that is called multiple bar diagram. Okay, so that is used to compare more than one set of variables. Next, subdivided bar diagram. So here under the same bar, if you are going to divide them under different heads, that is called a subdivided bar diagram. So for example, see here, here is given for the particular year, what is the total number of students in the university in arts, under arts, science, law. So total strength will be there. So under that, how many learned art, how many learned science. So under a main heading, that is the total number of students, we are subdividing. So this is like in this case we'll be using the subdivided bar diagram. So here look at this graph, just it has been divided. Okay, under the graph some things are subdivided. Next one, percentage bar diagram. So here it is based on the percentage. The total length of the bars will be equal, such as it represents 100%. So how will you do the calculations for this? So for example, the question is given as draw a percentage compound bar chart for the following data showing the total population in 3 countries. So here the different data are given, infant and young children, how many are there in 3 different countries. So how we are doing the drawing the percentage bar diagram is, first you have to find the percentage as given, then you will be finding the cumulative percentage, then I will be marking the cumulative values in your bar diagram. The height of your bar will be always 100% because the total is 100, right? So I will be marking the bars to the height of 100, then you will be subdividing inside the cumulative values you are marking. If the first one is 13.7, I will be marking here 13.7. The next is 25.1, the first under the country A. So likewise I will be marking a different shades will be given and index has to be noted. So likewise we will be drawing the percentage bar diagram. The next one is two-dimensional bar diagram, that is two-dimensional diagrams. So what is a two-dimensional diagram? So here we are representing the two dimensions, length as well as width has to be considered. Here the commonly used two-dimensional diagram is pie diagram. Most of us we know well what is a pie diagram. So it is nothing but a circle, the sections of which represent component parts of a whole. Okay, this method of constructing a sector diagram is to regard the whole as equal to 360 degree. The total you will be considering it as 360 degree and you will be subdividing the given values within this 360 degree. So how to solve the problem based on pie diagram is, here the data is given. So now how will you calculate? What is the calculation required here is, here will be percentage you have to calculate. Likewise you have to calculate the angle. Okay, so the percentage, that is the frequency divided by 100 into 360 degree. Right. So likewise you will be doing the calculations, and based on this area I will be dividing the circle. You will be normally, if you want a perfect diagram, you will be using protractor to divide this. We all know. Then the index has to be noted, which color or which shade represents what. The index has to be given clearly. So here what you are doing the calculation, I have to find the percentage into 360 degree. Right. The next two-dimensional diagram is rectangle diagrams, square and circle diagram. So rectangle diagram is one where both length and width are considered while constructing it. Okay, these two sides represent two different characteristics of data. So these diagrams we are not using most probably. Under two-dimensional we used to represent in pie diagram. Okay, then square diagram. the same thing. Instead of rectangles, we will be using squares for the measurement. Here we will be finding the square root of the given figures, which will give the measurement of the sides of the square. So example square diagram is given here. Next, similarly circle diagram. The area of the circle is proportional to the squares of the radius. So here the same diagram, instead of squares we will be drawing circles. Okay, the sides of the square represents here the radius of the circle. So likewise we have circle diagrams also. Next one, three-dimensional diagrams. So three-dimensional diagrams are those which have three dimensions: length, width and height are taken into account. They are also known as cubic diagram. They are drawn in form of cylinders, blocks, spheres, etc. So we are not most probably using this three-dimensional diagram in our syllabus, but you can just visualize how it looks like. Okay. Then next one is pictograms. Pictogram is that is in terms of pictures. We are representing the data in terms of pictures, which is easily understandable by even the illiterate. That is, here for example what is given, you see, sphere, that is the shape is drawn. So even if I don't know, if I can't able to learn, I can understand just by looking at this pictogram. And last one is cartograms. So you know what is cartogram? That is nothing but a statistical map. So all the maps comes under cartograms. So these are the different types of diagrammatic representation of our statistical data. Next, what is graphic representation of data? So graphic representation of statistical data, it gives a pictorial effect, but they are drawn on a graph paper. We know what is a graph paper, how the graph paper looks. We'll be using x-axis and y-axis to draw this graphic diagrams. Okay, that is the difference between the diagrams and graphs. Okay, diagrams you can draw on any region, but here graphical diagram you have to use a graph sheet. Okay, here this graphical representation are classified into two types: graphs of frequency distribution and graphs of time series. The first one, graphs of frequency distribution alone, is there in our syllabus. So let us see what are the different types of graphs of frequency distribution. The first one is histogram, frequency polygon, frequency curve and cumulative frequency curve or OGIFs. Okay, so let us see one by one. What is a histogram? So histogram, just I have given how it looks. Okay, the data is given how to draw a histogram. That is in case of continuous intervals. For example, see here the class interval is given as 155 to 160, 160 to 165. So likewise, if the data is given, we are drawing same thing, bar diagram, but for a continuous interval, class interval. So it is called a histogram. Okay, you know how to mark this bar. Okay. The next one is a frequency polygon. So frequency polygon is nothing but in a histogram, the upper part of the bar. So every bar, the upper middle value is marked. Middle point has to be marked in all the histogram. That is all the bars of the histogram. Then I will be joining those points using a scale, that is using straight lines. Okay, that is called a frequency polygon. So here, look at this picture. For 150 to 154, the mid value is 152. So by at 152, okay, I have to mark on the y-axis the frequency 10. Middle value, the mid value is marked and all the points are joined by a straight line, that is called a frequency polygon. So next one is the frequency curve. So frequency polygon and frequency curve are almost the same. The basic difference is here we are marking the same points, right? We are marking the same points, but in the first case, in frequency polygon, we are joining the points by a straight line. In the second case, we are joining the same points by a curve. Okay, so that is the difference between the frequency polygon and frequency curve. The next one, the last one is OGIFs are cumulative frequency curve. So in this cumulative frequency curve, we have two types, less than OGIF and more than OGIF. So how to calculate this less than OGIF and more than OGIF is the same thing like a histogram. The class interval will be given and frequency is given in the problem. So if you are going to find the less than OGIF, you have to find the lower limits of the class. You have to consider the lower limit. That is 10 to 20 here. Now what is the lower limit? 10. So what is the cumulative frequency? It means that less than 10. Okay. then less than 20, less than 30. Okay, less lower limits of the class. Okay, so 10, from 10 to 20, how many? What is the cumulative frequency? You will be finding the cumulative frequency and mark the cumulative frequency values on the graph and join by a curve. So it forms a less than ogive. Okay. Similarly, for the more than ogive, what will we do? We will be considering the upper class limit and the cumulative frequency from below. Okay, that in the opposite direction, you will be finding the cumulative frequency. You will be considering the upper limit. So that is in the case of more than ogive, you will get the curve. You will be plotting the cumulative frequency points on the graph and you are joining the points by a curve. So it gives you more than ogive curve. That is further using these ogives, we can find median, okay, quartiles, etc. But here it is enough if you know how to draw the ogives, more than ogive as well as less than ogive. Okay. Now to summarize what we have learned in this video, we have learned the meaning of statistics and the data, then what are the types of data and what are the types of classification of data and how to represent the data diagrammatically and graphically. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your patient listening.